Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Councillor Clive Jones. I'm the leader of the council and I will be chairing this meeting of the executive. Joining me in the executive meeting tonight is Councillor David Hare, Councillor Sarah Kerr, Councillor Rachel Bishop-Firth, Councillor Imogen Shepherd-Dubay, Councillor Stephen Conway, Councillor Paul Fishwick, Councillor Prue Bray, this meeting, Lindsay Ferris. Before we start the meeting, I would like to begin with a minute's silence, remembering those who have lost their lives in the terrible earthquake in Turkey and Syria, and those whose families have been affected by this tragedy. So would you all please stand for 1 minute? Please ensure that any mobile devices or mobile phones are switched off. And if you are participating in Teams when you're not speaking or being asked to speak, please mute your microphones. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Ian Shenton. And the next item on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Anybody have any comments? No? Okay. All those in favour of accepting those minutes? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest for tonight's meeting? No? Thank you very much. We shall now move on to a very short statement from myself. Tonight, the council will be debating the first Liberal Democrat budget for 20 years. And can I begin this evening's executive meeting by thanking all of you for the tremendous efforts that you as an executive have been putting in to ensure that we have a balanced budget to present to the council. I'd also like to thank all of the officers who have worked so hard with all of you. It's been a long process set against a backdrop of the worst cost of living crisis for 40 years, inflation at 10%, increasing demand for services, and huge increases in interest rates. We have a sound, forward-looking and compassionate budget. We have taken tough decisions, some that we desperately didn't want to take. We have invested in the future, in climate change initiatives and providing more school places. We have focused on helping those residents most in need, especially helping to improve special educational needs. We have found the money to protect much needed bus services, which are subsidised by the council for the next 3 years. We have set up a fund to support those struggling on very low incomes during this cost of living crisis. We have been able to do this and more because of your hard work and dedication to your roles and the hard work and dedication of the officers, and because the residents gave us the opportunity to run the council's administration after last May's local elections. Now I turn to the rest of the agenda and the public question time. And the first question is from Councillor Gary Cowan, who is public. Sorry. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, it is from Colin Watts. I think he was planning to attend in person, but he's not here. If he turns up, I will allow him to ask that question. So now we move on to member question time. Councillor Gary Cowan. Gary has sent his apologies. He's not able to be present to ask the question. He will get a written answer. The next question is from Councillor Charles Margetts for the Executive Member for Children's Services. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you. My question is to Prue. Can you update me, please, on progress with the new sixth form, extra year 7 places and SEND provision plan for Bowhunt School? How is it progressing and when do you hope it will open?
Thank you, Charles. Good evening. So the council continues to work with the Bowhunt Trust to finalise the legal agreements underpinning our relationship and to develop proposals that are satisfactory to the trust. The council expects the sixth form to open this September, with the new build works to be completed over the course of 2023 and 2024. I do have to add that this is still subject to satisfactory conclusion of the ongoing work on legal agreements, due diligence and final agreement to a satisfactory building proposal.
Do you have a supplementary, Charles?
Thank you. Firstly, can I state my full support basically for what you've just said? I lobbied my own administration against their wishes to actually see this move forwards, and I'm keen to be supportive in any way I can. You said there, though, basically, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that it would open, the aim was to open in September 2023, and I note the conditions you put around that. I'm assuming that will be in temporary buildings rather than a new planned building initially.
The answer to that is yes and no. Sorry, we have plans. It's possible it will be some in temporary accommodation. It's possible it won't. It's possible they will use some of the existing buildings and so on. We are in constant touch with them. We've had emails today about some details. We're meeting with them regularly, and it progresses, you know, on that basis. So I think there hasn't been a lot to update you with because we haven't reached any final positions. But when we do know exactly what will be ready in September, we will let all the local ward members know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. If you'd like to stay there, the next question is from Peter Harper. Peter has advised us through you that he's not able to attend, so we're very happy for you to ask his question.
Thank you, Clive. So this question is to Paul. Considering the significance of the project to change the layout of California roads and the impact on my residents, will the executive member for highways commit to holding a meeting in the near future itself to provide a full briefing on proposed works, the likely schedule, the estimated costs and the current status of the tendering process?
Thank you for your question, Peter, and read out by Charles. The proposed improvement works to the junction came from a planning condition from the Arborfield Garrison strategic development location. The developer could have carried out the works on the junction, but Wokingham Borough Council opted at the time to improve a wider area, including some of the area fronting the shops where possible. Therefore, a Section 106 agreement with funding was obtained. During the early part of 2015, a working group was formed consisting of Wokingham Borough Council members, including local ward members from Finch Hampstead Parish Council members and some local business owners. This group met periodically over a period of time, and it was agreed that the area was vehicle dominated within the village centre. Following investigation and concept design work, a presentation to local residents was given by officers, which received positive feedback. This broadly followed on from a scheme presented and included within the wider Arborfield Garrison Strategic Development Location application. It was identified to develop the California Cross into an area which benefits local businesses, owners and residents by creating a place where pedestrian, cyclist and vehicle traffic can coexist. It was intended for this scheme to have been delivered during 2019-2020. However, Thames Waterworks, which resulted in a lengthy closure of 9 Mile Ride, followed by the global pandemic, and then the closure and repairs of the ridges prevented works from being carried out, as this would have caused significant disruption. However, I am more than happy to meet with members along with officers to provide an update on the current status of the California Cross project. Ahead of this, though, I can advise that the project is due to go out to tender at the end of this month. Once we have a contractor appointed, we will be setting up a steering group with local ward members, business and parish council to talk them through the scheme, understand the business's logistics and the programme of works which we wish to carry out, causing the least amount of disruption as possible. We hope to be able to meet in June 2023 following the completion of the tender process.
No, I don't get a supplementary, but thank you. You've agreed to the request. So that's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Charles. The next question is from Councillor Alison Swaddle to ask a question of the Executive Member for Finance. Nice to see you, Alison.
So my question's for Imogen. You've previously criticised the former Conservative administration for using reserves in the aftermath of a global pandemic. If that action was wrong, why are you using reserves to balance this budget?
Okay, thank you for your question, Alison. The Chartered Institute for Public Finance Accountancy is very clear on the appropriate use of reserves. Let me read the pertinent bit. The authority's reserves should not generally be used to pay for day-to-day expenditure. They should not, except in the most exceptional circumstances, be used to fund a budget shortfall either, without a plan in place to address the underlying deficit to replenish the reserves. During the pandemic, the Conservative administration drained the general fund, and last year they took 2.3 million out of the general fund reserves to prop up the budget. While I agree that this reserve can be used for emergencies, it should only be used as the last resort. And there is no evidence that there was a plan to put in place to restore the funds of the original levels. I'm personally not convinced that all other options were explored. This year's budget was then handed to us with a general fund balance of only 9 million. The budget overall did not include some key items such as the deficit in home to school transport or the shortfall in capital funding for Winnersh Park and Ride, both of which have been known about by the previous administration for some time. It has also still reflected the depleted general fund reserves. Now, with our partners and our Liberal Democrat leadership, we are working to replenish these reserves, and over the next year we will be bringing them back up further into the safe zone. Not yet to the levels they were a few years ago, but we are working on it. I agree that the reporting in the general fund in our MTFP is only showing our prediction for the end of Q3 this year. We still have Q4 to go, and it initially looks like it might be short. However, if you look at the words on page 9, you can also see that it says that we fully intend for it to be back to 9 million at the end of this year. Next year, we do intend to build more resilience into the general fund reserves throughout the next financial year. This is all pretty amazing when you consider that this year's budget was set before the war in Europe occurred, causing unprecedented inflation, affecting all areas of this council just as much as our residents. Our offices and the executive had to make difficult decisions about savings and changes to the revenue income to bridge this gap and produce a balanced budget for this coming year.
Thank you, Imogen. Do you have a supplementary, Alison?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 82, matters referred to the executive. I don't think there are any. So we're moving to item 83, which is page 19, housing revenue, but account budget for 2023-24. And can I ask Imogen to present this?
Sure. While this report has my name on the front of it, I'm going to ask Stephen Conway, our Executive Member for Housing, to talk about it.
Thanks very much, Imogen. The report, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. I don't need to go through it in any detail, but I would like to highlight one really important feature of which I feel very proud, and that's the second recommendation on page 19 to increase council house rents. That's the rents of our tenants in HRA properties by 5.9%. Now, I would have preferred it to be much lower than that, but 5.9% is a full percentage point less than the government cap. And we've made a balanced decision that the HRA in this year should take that hit, because this is a year of really intense financial pressure on many people in the borough, and particularly on those on low incomes who need support the most. So we have kept our council house rent rise below the government cap, and we have put some of the money that we will generate by this rise aside in order to help those tenants who run into difficulties.
Prue?
I just wanted to check, the recommendation in the executive agenda says that the tenant service charges will be raised by 3.99%. We've had a correction for the council agenda to put it up to 5.99 in that recommendation. So I believe we should be doing the same thing at this meeting. Is that correct? Somebody can advise us, but it's in the supplementary agenda for the council meeting, so I'm assuming, but maybe Graham can offer.
I think it's sensible. So we need to amend that.
Okay.
So we need to amend recommendation 5 to bring it in line with the supplementary agenda item at the full council.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Right. So for the first thing we have to do is propose that we change item 5 to 5.99%. All those in favour? Thank you. That's done. And now for the agenda item as a whole, it's item 83, page 19, and the recommendations 1 to 7 on page 19. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. We move to item number 84, which is the capital programme and strategy for 2023-26. Imogen, would you like to present this?
Sure. Okay. Our capital programme is looking good for next year, but we're going to have to look at years 2 and 3 again, as there's still significant shortfall in those years. We've had to reprofile some of our projects to compensate for the shortfall in our capital programme budget for this year and going forward, but I think we're happy with what we have here in the short term. The projects for this coming year include the expansion of our schools, creating urgently needed school places, funding for alternative transport schemes, urgent work at Toutley Depot, as well as various roads and infrastructure improvements. In addition, the developer contributions report asks that the executive approve the use of developer funding on a list of projects. As you can see, these projects also include sixth form expansion for our schools, new social housing on Wellington Road, bus stop infrastructure in Arborfield, the A327 cycleway, local cycling and walking infrastructure, which will improve our transport choices and help reduce congestion. Is there anybody else would like to say anything on the capital programme?
Any questions from or comments from any other executive members? Just a minute. Paul?
Yeah, you may have noticed that Early Footbridge is not listed there. That's because it's in the current year, and because we haven't spent that money, it'll be carried forward. So this is new MTFP. So just to make you alert about that particular project.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else wish to say anything? No. Okay. So we go to the votes on agenda item 84, page 29 of the agenda, and the recommendations 1 to 4. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. We move to item number 85, which is a Treasury Management Strategy 23-26. And once again, Imogen, would you like to present this?
Sure, me again. This strategy report is something that all local authorities are required to produce every year. It is to ensure that our investments are affordable, prudent and sustainable. It sets out our strategy for the Treasury for the forthcoming year. It includes some new prudential indicators for monitoring the capital finance requirement and net income from commercial and service investments. It also sets a minimum credit rating for the investments at a high or upper grade. Apart from that, it has changed very little from previous years.
Okay. Any questions, comments? No? Okay, so we'll go straight to a vote. Agenda item 85, page 61 of the agenda, and recommendations 1 and 2 on that page. All those in favour? Thank you. That is unanimous. Move to agenda item 86, medium-term financial plan 23-26, including revenue budget submission. Once again, Imogen.
Okay, there's quite a lot of reports in here. The medium-term financial plan is obviously going to get a lot of attention later on this evening, but we need to agree it as an executive first. I'd very much like to take the opportunity to begin by very much thanking everyone who has worked on delivering this budget as a whole. It's been a year-long process of working with our council officers to get here during a difficult year. We have done much to tackle the legacy we were handed, and we were able to close the revenue gaps of 4 million and 40 million in the capital programme this year. But that has involved making some difficult decisions to get there, and we're going to have to continue making the difficult but responsible choices going forward. However, I'm pleased to say that for next year, we have included more funding support for our school children, for our local buses, alternative transport, and added extra support for those on the lowest incomes, and reduced the capital programme to bring down to more affordable levels, therefore reducing our need to borrow funding overall. I know that we'll hear more about this later. There has also been some other important documents attached to this that will be not part of tonight's later budget meeting. One of these is our fees and charges report. Earlier this year, we agreed a baseline increase of 7% for our chargeable services. That is below inflation, which has a current rate of 10.1%. And this document reflects those changes with some variations where we felt it was necessary. Some of the charges are set at national levels, particularly in the areas of planning, and they are reflected here too. I asked the executive to look and see if there's anything that stands out, but I note the street parties or non-through roads has been reduced from £104.60 last year to £1 this year. And I hope many people will be using this to celebrate the coronation of King Charles III later this year. The report also includes the revenue review from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who have been an important part of the process of working through and setting this budget, this forthcoming budget. This is a cross-party committee, and I thank them for their work and frank discussions about our finances. It is necessary that all councillors work together to produce an effective budget. We also have a copy of the Equalities Impact Assessment for this budget, which I must say has been quite a thorough assessment, and I'm pleased to say that it's been taken more seriously. And finally, we have a report from our Licensing Appeals Committee, which is setting the fees and charges for taxis. On that note, I'd like to say, is there anything that anyone else would like to add to this?
Any comments, questions from any executive members? No? Okay, so we move to a vote on agenda item 86 on page 113 of the agenda, and the recommendations 1 to 5. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 87. Selection of preferred registered provider. And Stephen, you're going to present this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clive. Yes, this report is before you as a result of a fairly long, exhaustive process of interviewing and assessing applications to become preferred partners of the council from registered providers. These are housing associations. This process has taken, as I've said, several months of interviewing and assessment of applications. I'd like to thank all of the officers in the housing service who have been involved in that process, and all of the elected members also of all of the political groups who have been involved. You'll see in the recommendation we have here a list of the preferred partners who will be joining us, we hope. And I say we hope because you'll note there are some conditions attached. And I draw your attention in particular to the third recommendation, which makes it clear that we will be inviting these registered providers to enter into a partnership agreement with us. And that partnership agreement will actually involve obligations on their part, which we expect them to fulfill. And we will be monitoring their performance and fulfillment of those obligations closely. And we will be having a 3-year break in this arrangement. It's meant to be for 5 years, but it starts with a 3-year period with a possible renewal for 2 years afterwards. And that at that break, after 3 years, the success of this partnership working will be assessed by the Overview Scrutiny Committee. So we are going to be bringing a perhaps closer eye to bear on the performance of our partners in the register provider sector to ensure that they are providing high quality housing and good conditions for their tenants. So I'd like to recommend that we adopt the 3 recommendations on page 307 of your agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Any questions or comments? Yes, Sarah?
Thank you, Stephen. I just wanted to ask about the carbon reduction measures that could go on to these properties with these registered providers. So I'm losing my words tonight. It's been a long day, half term. So obviously we have our own social housing, and we access the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, which we can use to make improvements, which obviously is not only good from a carbon reduction perspective, but reduces the operational cost for our tenants. And that Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund is open not just to us, but to our registered providers. So I wanted to understand what work we're doing with them to encourage them to access that and improve things for their tenants.
Thank you very much, Sarah. This question was put during the process of interviews and assessments. They were all asked to provide us with details of what they're proposing to do to produce carbon neutral homes, and they've all come up with a commitment to follow through on that, and we will be monitoring that as part of this agreement.
My only request then, please, is that we include the council's climate team with that to assist with the process. Is that okay?
I'm sure that can be arranged. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions or comments? No. So we'll move to a vote on agenda item 87, page 307 of the agenda, and the recommendations 1 to 3. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And we move to item 88, which is a joint report from David and Prue. I think David's going to talk to it.
I've said that I'll talk about it. I mean, basically, this is a very good agreement that is gone through. Windsor and Maidenhead thought they could get it cheaper and looked elsewhere and went elsewhere and have come back. So I think that says it all. They couldn't get it cheaper and as good a quality. I think that the two are combined. It's important with any legal thing to have a good quality as well. So they had good quality and they couldn't get it cheaper. So I recommend that we approve this.
Thank you, David. Hopefully the quality was what actually brought them back.
I think both brought them back, actually. They couldn't get it cheaper and the quality wasn't as good.
Okay, all right. Prue?
A brief comment. I agree with David, there isn't a better way to do it, but I'd like to thank Susan Parsonage for her role in sorting out the governance and the arrangements so that everybody's working together, getting the best out of the arrangement that we can. We can't do it by ourselves. We need this service, and it's a sensible arrangement now and better than it was. And I think we will all go forward together as Berkshire authorities and hopefully it will work for us.
Okay, thank you, Prue. Any other questions or comments? No. So agenda item 88, page 347, and recommendations 1 to 2. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Item number 89. Contracted bus services, and you'd like to present this to us, Paul?
Thank you very much, Guy. Local bus services are vital for Wokingham Borough and the wider area. They are a lifeline for the community and the economy. During the summer last year, under significant financial pressures, we invested £300,000 of additional money to retain and supported local bus services. This additional funding enabled the services to be operated until 31st of March 2023. The services fall into 4 areas and are set out on page 366 of the report, but summarised as Wokingham Town and surrounding areas, villages south of the M4, services on the A327 corridor, 19A, B and C, Woodley and Early. We re-tendered these services, but based on the bids which were received, further budget is required. The council has secured Section 106 funding from developer contributions, and they are available to cover the additional pressure from uplifted costs for a 3-year period plus a 5-month extension. Should be noted that Section 106 is finite and will not currently extend beyond the 3 years and 5-month period. A growth bid will need to be submitted and approved if services are to be continued beyond September 2026. Therefore, agreement is now sought to extend the existing services for 5 months, 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of August 2023, at an uplifted rate, whilst a further tender process takes place. Extending these existing vital services and re-tendering under a new contract for 3 years and 5 months will provide certainty for our residents and businesses, where currently over 250,000 passenger trips were taken, and links to our objectives set out in the recently approved Bus Service Improvement Plan. We recognise the vital role of local bus services for our residents in offering greener and healthier travel alternatives. However, if we want to continue to have a good bus network, we also need more people to use the buses. I therefore urge residents to take the bus wherever possible, and with a £2 single fare initiative, except football and school allocated buses, now is a great time to start. The next steps are set out on page 367, and I recommend approval of items 1 to 5 as set out on pages 365 and 366. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions or comments? I would just like to say that I remember still with horror, I wouldn't say quite nightmares, but horror, when we had just taken control of the council by 10 minutes to be presented with, you have to make a decision on these 18 bus services within the next couple of months, and otherwise they have to stop. And I really thought, my God, what is going on here? And this is giving certainty to those buses for over 3 years. I think it is really important that we are doing that. It is really important for the many residents, as you just said, who use these bus services. And if they know that they are definitely there for 3 years, hopefully it will encourage them to use those bus services. So I think you've done a great job. Thanks very much, you and officers. Lindsay?
I just wanted, you touched on about encouraging people to use buses more. Have we got any views as to how we can encourage more people to use it? I think the £2 initiative is a good start, but I just wanted to have any ideas as to how we can encourage, because that will then help what we need to fund the cut buses for.
The £2 initiative has come from government, which is most welcome. We are hoping that will continue. At the moment, it only goes up to the 31st of March, but we do hope that will continue because we want to grow the services as we've stated in the BSIP. Wherever possible, we are encouraging people to use the bus through advertising in all of our Facebook pages and advertising wherever possible. Same again with the bus operators. I came here on the bus tonight, and the big screen in the bus, £2 single journey anywhere. So word is getting round. It is far easier and cheaper. It's healthier. People walk to the bus, walk back from the bus stop or their where they've gone to in their destination. So that is all going to help us build, and we just need more and more people to actually use the bus. If they drive a certain number of days a week, take the bus for 2 or 3 of those and start using it. It really will help, because a bus going along a particular corridor actually carries 5 to 10 times more people than a car along that given route.
I have noticed the buses going through Twyford, and certainly some of them during part of the day, are having more passengers on, and it'd be useful to keep an eye on the numbers.
We are constantly monitoring the numbers. They come through on a monthly basis from Reading Buses and Thames Valley, and Arriva, because Arriva run the 850 coming down from Henley through to Twyford. And fingers crossed, things are very, very positive. They're looking up, but we need that to continue, because the more and more people that use them, the better chance is that they remain commercial, because we have commercial services, and the supported services then get closer and closer to commerciality. I'd also like to thank Rebecca Brooks, actually, officer, who has put in an awful lot of work on this and the BSIP, and it's really welcome working with her.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions or comments for Paul? No? Okay, so agenda item 89, page 365 of the agenda, contracted bus services, recommendations 1 to 5. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. I don't think that there are any reports for overview and scrutiny committee to consider tonight. So that is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.